Hello world. Patricia O'Connor and Frida Reba Darcy here today on the Bonsai balcony. It is Wednesday. It is our midweek drop, and we can smell the barn. We can smell the barn from here, as they say. I am Patricia O'Connor. This down here, probably out of frame, is Frida Reba Darcy, and this is part 4. Come here, Frida. Of what has been a bit of a lot of work. We put in a lot of work. This was the perfect little project. We are looking at part 4 of a 4-parter where we on this Literati Japanese black pine. Today we're going to wire our pads and do our final position on some of our everything. Today is the part where we do what we have scheduled for part 4, and then we take a step back and look and see if we've missed anything on part 1, if we've missed anything on part 2, if we've missed anything in part 3, if we've missed anything, and we pick that up and have our ta-da, and then rotate the tree around moment. That's and even then, it's kind of like it's a little like a haircut. Hopefully you get, if you've got a big occasion coming up and you want a nice hairdo, hopefully you get to do that maybe a few days ahead of time so that you have a chance to grow into it. That's what this is too. I don't really expect all of these. Some of these are sparser than others, and that's not part of the final design necessarily. I'm looking at the buds underneath that are going to supply in some cases. So yeah, in the last show we did a metal bar we put on here. The tree has a slight subtle curve to it. I had wanted to put a bend right here where the tree would kick back some, and if it kicked back some, somewhere over in here it would kick back half that much, and somewhere over in here it would kick back half that much again, bringing us back. It's kind of how I saw that happening. In the end, I saw that bend. When we were doing that, it was difficult because I had to hold one part while I was doing it. That was more doable than I thought as far as the main problem I saw myself having. But at the same time, I needed more copper down here low to necessitate that bend. So when I got the bend I wanted, I went past it a little bit and then pulled back and lost most of it. So that's okay. That's okay. I kind of said uncle on that early, because I'm more than willing to sit back and see how this pans out as far as the final design stuff. So let's just get started. I've got several sizes of copper wire here. I've got Frida standing by in case I need anything. Come over here, Frida. And I've got various and sundry tools: scissors, wire printers, weenie skewers. It is a beautiful warm day here. It's a little teensy bit hazy. When I looked through the shutter earlier, I saw that it looked a little bit hazy and blown out looking, but it's blue skies here and it's really pretty. What do I want to do this with? Right in the tan. I'd like to do this part before we get started. A little touch up here. More. This has been a perfect project. By that I mean I really look forward to it. And going on our fourth part, I'm glad to be doing both things. Both things. I was looking forward to doing this. I wasn't dreading it a bit. I was looking forward to this. And I'm also glad to be done. Alright, I'm going to pull try not to have my back totally to you, but I've got to change positions here. Which way were you going with it? Oh, I broke the wire. Okay. Fine. Fine. It was debatable as to whether or not I was going to get away with that, but the main thing I wanted to do was I had an opening right here, and I had an opening right here that was just small enough to tuck this wire size in. Now I see that needed to be a heavier wire, and I think I need to adjust my game on that. I think I need to adjust my game on that a little. We can do that. I can do that. That's not a thing. So I'm not going to try that again. I don't see any marks or anything where where I went in there. So that was a fairly clean method. It just wasn't heavy enough. By the time I got enough twist on there to get us where I wanted to be, the wire was too weak. More than heavy enough. Also, this one, because I couldn't lace it through, instead of using the tree as contact points. I want to ride it. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Here. So I'm riding it on the copper wire, on the outside of the copper wire, where I was trying to loop it through. Now I'm just trying to shield the tree with the loop of copper wire underneath it. Keep going that way. Okay. I decided last night to bring in 4 ponderosas and do a little work to them. And last night, and I ended up having to repot one because of an accident, which meant I was up a little late last night. That's clumsy sometimes. It's still empty. Just step off right quick. Little cut paste. I had a crack open up right here. It also sort of opened up. It didn't. It wasn't slow about it. We got that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. A lot of people talk about different items for cut paste. I just use this. It's inexpensive. It's made to do the job. It's good color. All right, now I'm going to be doing this. I will be doing this with copper wire. I think that's going to be my small grade there. That's huge. That's huger. We'll go with this. Gonna do the old traditional 2-branch method. The old tried and true 2-branch method. I'm hooking this in on one of the larger pieces of copper that played out here from where we did the wraps around the trunk. So I'm just kind of tying this smaller wire in with that one, getting the wraps back here out of the way. And one hand on it. How do I not? Okay. Was a bit tricky. Copper looks so good on these guys. Just accents the tree. and it's the right everything, it's the right strength, it's the right consistency. Easy tap. It holds more than aluminum. I think my ponderosas came out really good. This being part 4, and with what we're doing on this show, this show is going to take a minute, but when it's all said and done, I'll probably do a short video, possibly today while we still have good light, and I'll do a little balcony tour because I've got four ponderosas and a little bit more follow up on our big ponderosa. So it could be a pondo, kind of a pondo heavy show, I gotta say. Yeah. I thought I would take 4 of our little pondos that we potted up last year, and my 1 Yamadori little Shohin ponderosa, and I thought I would do a little cleanup, and I did. I just went right on down the line and did a little fall cleanup, and then in the process of doing that, I had a disaster and knocked the Shohin off the coffee table. While it didn't fall far enough to even break the pot or chip anything or break a limb or do anything there or even hardly knock off a needle, it did fall in such a way as to totally dislodge all the soil, which ironically enough kind of gave way to the last remaining reason I had to not repot it. So I just said, okay, we're gonna drag out the vacuum cleaner, clean up our mess, and then we're going to repot this ponderosa. And yeah. Great fun. Actually, it was great fun right up until the time I had that little accident, and that little accident sort of paved the way for something that I felt like should have happened anyway. So I guess in the end I'm pretty okay with the way it turned out. Just hooking these into one another, and it looks kind of like, admittedly, this looks like a bit like, at one point this looks a little like a junction box in a third world country. Everybody's bringing their piece of copper wire to stick in the outlet. That's a mess. It's not poorly done, it's just too many wires up here, and but everybody gets one, so I don't know. I don't know how to not do that, y'all. just a lot of it. It's a big old waste of water right there. Okay. That worked out. At least what I had was able to work out somewhere else. So it looks like I'm likely, possibly, probably going to bring my my Yamadori Ponderosa I'm going to bring it back and have some more graphs put on it. I'm excited about that. I think that'll be a positive move for that tree. That also gives me a chance to catch up with Peter T, so we can amend our notes if we need to in any way about where we are with that guy and what I've done so far and how that needs to and how that's going. That's what I'm sitting here. I need to pick up this one. So I'm excited about that. It's not going to be something that happens in the next couple of weeks, but it is something that would happen. Sounds like in February, and which was about the time that we did all of this, which was about the time that we did the graphs last year. Very, very much excited about this. Knowing how it went last year, I'm very optimistic about how I suspect this will turn out. And yeah, also, when I did this last year, I kind of knew some of what to expect. It's like I didn't know totally what to expect, but I knew what to expect next. You know, like sometimes that's all you need to know. When you don't know everything, just don't be totally surprised by what may happen next, and then take it from there. Well, that's kind of how we did it. But as far as the styling thing, I hadn't had that totally sorted out in my head as to getting it really clear to me what those graphs would end up looking like when they took hold. Now I have a vision in my head. We have a graph on there that's doing rather well. And I think I have a vision of my head as to what that graph will look like at the end of the summer. And also, there'll be a couple more with it by the end of the summer. And I'm excited. I am equally excited about that. One to go, Pat. You're getting ahead of the game. Getting ahead of yourself. How can I grab it? You can grab it by bringing it around here. Doing that. I hope that wherever you are all the things. You're warm, dry, comfortable, all that stuff. Secure in your surroundings. It's big. Sometimes maybe and I hope that however you, if you're warm and you're dry and you're comfortable and all that stuff, I hope that whatever your situation in life is that brings you to that it doesn't itself come with a lot of stress or too much. This is both the chaos that is living tissue and the uniformity that is in shape and but not so much. It's kind of organic uniformity a little, but that's kind of what happens when we make hats. These guys do look a little skimpy. They'll be okay. I feel really good about that. Kind of begrudging this right here. Yeah. Yeah. It's not bad. It just looks like a lot of wire to me right there. And I think what I could have done to eliminate part of the mess was this wire right here. It comes all the way to here. I could have terminated it right here, and that would have taken out the two biggest pieces of cable out of all this wire that I'm looking at here. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just not going to mess with it. That's, in the end, I think that's going to be fine. All right, keep going. Now this guy. Where are you at? It feels good to be able to wire something that isn't in miniature. For the most part, this isn't incredibly hard to be cleaned with. On this one, you might notice I'm coming over the top. And then, and now, instead of coming under the bottom with it, there's already 2 wires in the what we call the armpit of this branch. So the 2 wires going around the trunk both bind their way up. Right there. For all the simplicity of their design, Literati can be difficult. It's not an easy, it's not as easy as you might think. You can take something that's small, like nursery stock that isn't huge and fat and all that kind of stuff, and then shoot for the whimsical and put a good little fold in it. That is a little easier. What gets harder is to maintain that as the tree changes. That was the first thing I learned about Literati. I got a bald cypress about this tall. It was a twin trunk bald cypress. And I thought it made a beautiful Literati. I had an idea in mind, a design idea in mind, and I carried it out. I have to say, I pretty much carried my design out to the letter. And then learned what it meant to be sustainable or not sustainable, as in we were not so much sustainable. It was not a sustainable design. It was a problematic design. So live and learn. That was my. But I thought the tree that I thought of was spoke to me as a reputation. I mean, as a representation of Literati. I just at the time, my level of game wasn't such that I could roll with the punches for what that tree did, and I saw my original design idea kind of fall by the wayside. And I didn't know what to do next. So sometimes people will see one of our trees and go, that thing is so cool. Don't ever change it. So it's not like that. We have to change it. It's changing. finished. I skipped all this up right here. Just absolutely focused on what I was doing and moved down. That's okay. About this, about this. Where's your head at, Pat? So I have tracks in here from where our old wiring dug in. And whenever you come across something like that, you want to be sure and avoid those. Do not fall in to your old wiring scars. You'll just make those deeper and make the tree ever so slightly weaker. Yeah, heck yeah, that's enough. That works for me. That came in handy. Hello? I'll be out here in a little while. They're excited, the crows are excited that the crow coffers are full again. I had to make a grocery store run. I looked up several years ago things that were would be okay for those guys, and unsalted peanuts was the best thing that wasn't also disgusting. I mean, they also like grubworm, so I take it by that turtle food or fish food or something like that probably would have been okay. But peanuts seem like the cleaner option. And as they say, they're good with beer, which is like some sort of litmus test. There is. Is it good with beer? Seems to be a thing. Okay, just moving. Oh yeah, I've got one here to go. Cutting another wire for that, or are we using another wire for that? We are cutting another wire for that. Where do you end up? There it is. This has been a good project. It was a little overdue. It's like I lived off I lived off of somebody else's nice work for a few years on this guy until it came time for us to come in and pull everything back into some sort of ready state again. Oh, this part just looks too much to me. I'm so sorry about that tree. Doing the old preformed hook on this wire, grabbing the branch, the twig, whatever, and then steadying the wire and the branch every place they make contact when I do my next bend. And they all have their issues. The tiny stuff like this, the copper is easy to bend. It's more tedious. The bigger stuff can also be tedious, but the copper is harder to bend. Did you miss anything else, Patricia? No, we did not. Okay. These are long shows. These are long shows. In the last show, it didn't help that I spent about 2 or 3 minutes putting raffia on something that I intended to wire before I applied raffia. So I'll look at that and go, well, that's a few minutes that nobody's ever gonna, once you've seen that, that's a couple of minutes of your life you're never gonna get back for any particular reason. So sorry, please. I know I'm getting quiet, but we're doing a thing. We're doing it. We're definitely doing a thing, yeah. Take this particular wire and go long. Go long. So, I will, when we're done with this, I'll grab the camera out of the tripod and and go handheld all the way, you know, running gun, all herky jerky like we do. Oh, I just looked at that angle. You're not probably able to see any of this. You got to come around and try to do this from the back side. Anyway, I'll probably do a video after this where I show the state of our ponderosas and discuss another little ponderosa thing that's going on. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot more low key than this, and it'll be by comparison fairly fast. Fairly fast. But we need a 20-minute video. We need a 15 or less video after all of these lengthy multi-parters. A little light show and tell would be nice, huh? We certainly should take advantage of this weather. Sometimes in tight places, it's hard to work limbs when you yourself are all limbs. At work, I'm the one who can reach things off the top shelf. I was made to change light bulbs without a ladder. just have to tell myself that at the end of the day, we're still doing just what I want to do to these branches and these smaller limbs. So the part that's less desirable is I've got all of these 1, 2, 3, all of those placements, and even going with a lighter gauge wire. Instead of going with a heavier wire to bend this part, I knew that I was going to have 2 or 3 wires on every one of these, so I used 2 or 3 strands of the smaller wire to try to necessitate those bends rather than go with a heavier gauge wire here. And even then, I've still got, I don't see a way not to have a piled up mess here. It's neat wiring, it's just too much of it. I don't see a way out of that. Shame too, because coppers are really, in itself, I think the coppers are really good look, and I'm making a lot out of it, I know. In the end, it's what we're doing here, and I don't have a fault with our method that I have a solution to. It's one thing to bitch, it's another thing to, do you have a solution? No, I don't really. I think it was all necessary, possibly the lesser of 2 evils. Yeah, instead of turning. Oops. Got another gauge I can go down to when I run out of this, which is inevitable. Don't cut that one too long. Because I can cut the next one I need much shorter than what I have there. I decided to save that piece. It's like, oh yeah, this can be much shorter. Right there. Never wire your needles. If the needle gets trapped, uh, back your wire out unless you're afraid to. If you're afraid to, that's okay. It's probably for the best, your instincts. But pull the needle. Having a needle trapped under a piece of wire means it's not doing any good for the tree, but the tree is still wasting resources over it. So yeah. Do this like you mean it, Patricia. We are. Good. I think I just put my fat head right in the shot, right in the way of everybody, but I think that's got us. I think that's got me there. Now. Ow. Love it. Loving it, loving it. Okay. Let's move. The thing about wiring is if you're having problems with wiring, sometimes bail out. But if the kind of frustration that would lead to you going, yeah, this is not going well. I'm about to make a mess of this. I'm just gonna back out of here before something happens. I've been there, and I'm not gonna say something like, trudge on. Far from it. You start getting that feeling like you're about to just get frustrated with something and start to see the ill effects from it. Back away. Go take 5. Come back and look at it again. If nothing else, if you have to remove some wire because it's not going well and you're afraid that you're making a mess of it, It's kind of like half the mountain climbers that we lost were already coming down. So don't think that because you're backing out of there that you're out of the woods. Take 5 and be mindful. Just occurred to me to say that. Not a lot of people probably wouldn't have that as an issue. I'm hard-headed, and when something starts not going well, maybe I intimidate myself a little, and then that hard-headed self still wants to push through and not be bullied by the situation. That can be dangerous. We're not playing games with trees. How long? This could have been its own. This could have been its own. Part 4, part 5. I see that now. I do. I see that now. This could have easily been a 5-parter. In that we're a little past long already by my meter, and we have a ways to go yet. Still, it's okay. Literati. I gotta say, growing up in Southeast Texas, this was the design concept that I would actually see quite often. Somebody would go through and they would park a logging truck next to an old dirt road, and then you would hear chainsaws, and then the next time you went down that dirt road, there would be an empty field where a grove of 30-year-old pine trees was growing. And it was, somebody had already harvested that years ago for the oaks and the cedars and the cypress. And what took over was loblolly pines, and then when those 20-30 years old, they came through and harvested all of those, and you would see all the stumps and things like this, things that had grown in the shadows of all those trees, and they might get stepped on, they might get run over by a bulldozer, or they might have been leaned into by a cow or two along the way, but they had always grown in the shadows, less nourished, less tall, maybe old for their size. And just looking out over an expanse of 10 or 12 acres that used to be trees, and seeing the occasional stick up, sometimes with the top broken but still hanging there. That was natural literati. People who are trying to invest in literati design are trying to bring a state of grace to the trees that they've seen that are like that in the wild. So to me, it's very much a thing. Literati is very much a thing that happens. There's also the kind of the 1970s modern art interpretation of literati. That's a little different. I've seen some of those that I really like too. I think for the most part, I'm getting all these guys really good and easy pat. I think I'm getting these guys pretty tight against the wood, against the branch, twig, the limb, in all cases of the trunk. I think I can see my wiring has improved because we did all of those small trees. I couldn't recommend an exercise like that enough, and especially if you take into account the actual good trees that we got from doing that. It's just like, yeah, I'm blown away by how cool that whole exercise turned out. Yeah, you have to do something else too, right quick, Pat. Okay. we're still putting a hint of that thing we do. We've got a little bit of, like, some of these guys have a little bit of a hint of a Cheerio in just the slightest essence of a Cheerio starting on some of those branches. This tree will evolve. At some point this bark will come up and we'll start to get huge crackly bark. Our branches will get longer, and what we do with them will become an extension of what we see now, and it'll have to try to follow the same theme. But yeah, that's what we have. That's what we have coming in our, but the tree is sustainable in this design, and in the one that I acquired, this is very much a carryover. This is very much a carryover of the tree that I purchased. Is what I would say about this design that we're doing now. It's kind of like getting out of shape, and you tweak it and you get it out of shape again. When it grows out of shape, and you bring it back and tweak it and prune back and do all of the things that go with that. I think we'll be okay with that. Once again, coming over the top with this guy, that wire wasn't long enough back. I say it wasn't long enough, it might be just long enough, but the shorter it gets, the shorter it is for me to manipulate, and also I'm not running out of this. So I didn't need to be thrifty at the expense of my own thumbs. Ow. Like that. This I thought I'm going to pull it down with the guy wire anyway, so why do you need enough for it to hold the bend? Because I do. You just need enough for it to hold the bend that you're making. And then do the guy wire. Oh, yeah. Come on, Pat, easy. Here we go. I'm really excited about a chapter we've started in our experimenting with growing ponds. The last couple of shows that we did that weren't a part of this were like in our last 5 or so, within our last 5 shows, I would say that. We have some where we're putting more emphasis on our little mame trees, and we did our thing with our colanders that we're growing, and our little setup to increase the root growth. I am gotta say I'm pretty excited about what I expect for us to get out of that. I'm genuinely excited about what I think that'll bring to us. Out of curiosity, Pat, is that wire heavy enough to hold? Yeah, all day long. Okay. Well, I don't have to double up these little wires, and I just got away with using a smaller gauge wire. Win-win. If this was aluminum, there's no way something that is this thin would hold even these thin little branches. I would have to double it up, and I was wiring this as if I may have to, and I don't think I will. I don't think I'll have to double this up to hold motion on these waspy little branches. My thoughts go out to people in LA. Yeah. Stay safe. It's like a duh. Golly. There's nothing wrong with being extra vigilant at a time like this. And communication is so important. People have gotten hurt going into harm's way, trying to rescue people who weren't even there. So communication, and that happens too. You can lose communication. That happens. But try to let people know where you are. Try to let people know if you're concerned, and try to let people know when your time for concern is past, so their focus can shift to other things. There's nothing I really know to say about this. I'm not a fire management expert. I may have actually been our first female Boy Scout. I'm not really really sure about that. I was a member of Troop 1, sponsored by the Knights of Columbus out of Orange, Texas, which was an odd thing for agnostic little. Anyway, yeah, out of all the weird claims to fame, could have been, may very well be the first female Boy Scout. True story. Easy, easy, easy. Ow. So one thing, when I'm using, you know, you go to the gauge wire you think it's got you covered no matter what. And then, as you just saw, I just ran out and had to go to a smaller gauge. So before I did the whole tree in that, I did a little test to see how that branch would handle that wire, and it handled it fine, which told me, fine, go ahead. Had I had a problem with that, I could have done 2 of these smaller wires to make that happen. I don't know that I will. I don't know that I'll need to. Which brings us to something else. Most of the time, I believe in, if this were a typical bonsai tree, I would start with the bottom branch. I would wire one part of it. I would set this part. Then I would wire this part. I would set this part. And then I would move up and do the same and do the same and do the same. You do see me wiring a whole pad before I go to set it. And I'm kind of doing that because we already know where we're going with this for the most part. I'm not going to change the direction of one of these limbs from something that we've done in the past. So that's the reason that's the reason why I don't typically wire the whole tree. Is you wire your first branch, set your motion in your first branch, and that tells you how to wire your second branch. And maybe you've got a loose idea, but you know what, that changes. And rather than go on again, off again with the wire, because you're adapting as you go, do a branch, wire a branch, bend a branch, wire a branch, do a branch. And I thought about this going in. I go, you preach that enough times, and people aren't going to necessarily see you doing that on this one, because I can go more about a pad at a time. It's more about, and even then I can't do the final work until after I've moved this guy into its final position, because that's what the final word is on what's straight, what is and what is not straight. We're moving along now anyway. This is not. Do that. I need to pull this in. I want a few more wires crossing in here, so whenever I sling this to this, I'll have this piece resting on some copper wire instead of the trunk. Just kind of was thinking that out, and that's what I just came up with. It goes into the heading is making this up as we go along, obviously, but you know, you can also have thought this out to the letter, and you know what? Things change. So come spring, this thing is going to start filling out all over the place, and that's going to be, it's going to be fun for me to look at like that. I gotta, you know, just fun to watch it grow. That's a thing we get to do. Easy. So using these lighter gauge wires, if you want to hedge your bet a little, what we normally say is that 45 degrees are a good angle for these wires to loop to intersect the branch that they're wrapped around. 45 degrees, 65 degrees, and that's getting a little loose and may not hold the bend. If it does, it may not hold the bend once the tree grows a little bit. But on this, where you just saw me have to go to a smaller gauge of wire, I might even hedge that. I might even make those wraps a little bit tighter, knowing that a little bit more wire will increase its ability to hold the bend. Now you gotta watch that though, because having spirals that are really tight together, they can hit edge to edge after you start getting movement on them. So in the end, when you go to get the movement, you got enough wire on there to hold a position, but when you go to get that position, the wire's in the way of the other wire for that position to be something. So I did that on my small ponderosa about a year or two ago. Something was pretty intricate, hard to bend, and had a sling and some wiring and some other things as backup. And when it all was said and done, the wiring job looked more like a spring, and that inhibited the movement that I could get out of the tree by a whole lot. I wasn't able to fully necessitate the bend that I had intended because of all the wire had it locked in. So balance in all things, like I say, but on a couple of these limbs that are looking, a couple of these little small branches that are looking a little thicker, keeping into consideration that this wire is a little thinner, I am probably making these more like maybe 35 instead of 45. And that'll give us a little holding power, and hopefully, since all we're doing is tipping these up, we're just putting a little bit of arch in them. None of these little guys are gonna get bent into a Cheerio or anything too nuts. That's the last one of those. We'll put this guy into position. Not the last one, this is the second to last one of these. We'll put this guy into position. And then move on to our bottom here to the last one. Yeah, pretty exciting, huh? I think so. Wrong. Try that again. This time, I'm going to try to do more bend early. So that it didn't take as many reps. Because we remember we broke one of these last time. This was the gauge wire I broke last time. Is there anything that you didn't hit with your hat, Pat? Yeah, maybe. No, I like that. Okay. like a copper kettle. Yeah, Pat, I would say it looks like a copper kettle. Over the top again. Now, apropos. Come on. Thought I could get that out of my room. Maybe I can't. Okay. Pull up a tree. Once again, dyslexia, ready for jumping. We are about to finish up our wiring of this tree. We are about to do that. And with that, I'll put a little bit of motion in this guy, in this bottom branch. I think I've already got, you know, between you and me, here's how I operate. I try not to make too many heavy decisions on camera because I'm always aware that I'm on camera. I'm also aware of potentially camera interfering the creative process. It's kind of a statement, I know, but still, when it comes to artistic decisions, sometimes I go in a little and stop deliberately early, knowing that I can take 5 after it's over. And you know, kind of like a cooking show, we can straighten out that icing just a little bit off camera. This is really good for me to rough it in. The part where you do those final little tweaks without doing too much little tweaks and breaking something. A lot of times, and I'm sure I'm not alone in doing this. So in other words, when we set this branch, I think we will have roughly completed part 4. I kind of want to say part 5, but this is part 4 of Literati Japanese black pine, and then after that, I'm going to go in and do another show today. I've got a little follow up I want to do on some of our other guys, and compared to this stuff that we've been doing, this is something we haven't done lately. We've done things comparable to this before, but we haven't done one of these lately. So after this show, I'm going to do a follow-up program where I'm going to do a little balcony tour. It'll probably be a 20-minute show. Today is Wednesday. This show will probably drop tonight, I'm thinking. And the balcony update will probably air in a couple of days. We'll give this show a couple of days to roll and see how it does, and then we'll pile the other one on top before we come in here on the weekend and do our weekend shows. Yeah, I upped my work schedule by 1 day a week a month or so ago, and I was concerned about how that would play out for the trees and for the balcony. I haven't seen anything yet that's caused me any problems, aside from the part where I will occasionally think that since I'm not here, it could be worse than it is, and I'll water stuff that I need to probably settle down. You're only going to be gone for 7.5 hours, and then you'll be right back here. So yeah, I've overwatered a little bit because I was worrying about it. Is what I'm not saying. Okay, so, that was, you know why that's hard, don't you? Yes, I do. What were you planning on doing with that stuff? Nothing, it was just there in my way. Three this morning. Yep, 3 this morning. So it all happened. Here's how Pat ends up doing an all-nighter. I'm not a kid anymore. And yeah, all-nighters used to be a thing. I naturally am a night person. If anything at all, you know, a cool ending to a movie, and I'm just like psyched to go for another 6 hours, even if it was supposed to be bedtime. So that's why I kind of try to keep it key and kind of try to make my way towards the living room, towards close to horizontal about 10, which is too early for me. But then I can usually go to bed by midnight if I'm doing that. Otherwise, I'll wake up like a teenager. I'll wake up exhausted in the morning. And wanting to play hooky, both things. So, yeah, I came in from work. I was watching some programs from Bonsai Q, and I was looking at some Literatis that Hilma was working on. They were beautiful. I loved them. At one point, I'm like, yeah, I want to do some of that other tree. And I'm like, that's not what your tree is, though, Pat. You can't, you know. They have a Bonsai Q in Japan. There was shows last year where they were showing off. Everybody was wearing these t-shirts that they had made, and the t-shirt had a bonsai tree on the front of it, and it was their way of advertising Bonsai Q. And the tree was a literati, and it basically came up out of the ground and did one of these, and then they kind of flipped this part right side up. It's really easy for me to get pretty enthusiastic over something like that. But at day's end, I had to remember that's not what this tree is. This, by virtue of being a much younger, I got this tree dirty. It's got me dirty, and then I turn around and get the tree dirty. Anyway, this tree, by not having bark and all of that, and because literati is supposed to be, minimal, this is what minimal is, and our moves are a little bit more swoopy than they were when I got it. I think I put a little bit of a mark on it, but I don't think it's been too much. Smell the barn from here, folks. Somebody somewhere is cringing when I say that, probably. I understand. I understand. That's it. Haven't put this in a position I like yet. It's probably because of that. Leave it alone. Okay, here's what. I'm gonna make a flat level surface out of this so I can do a little tree rotate. We're gonna do a little tree rotate, and then we're gonna move right on. This has been Literati Japanese black pine, and this is my Literati Japanese black pine that I've had for a couple of years now. I got this at auction in Oakland, California. I did not know the grower, and what we did was we went through, we thinned our needles 1, 2, 3 on 4 levels. I then went through and cut back and did bud selection, which was our fall work that I had never gotten around to until now. So we did that, which then led to, we also cleaned out a few branches. You saw me cut a few branches here as well. So we did that, bringing everything back down to a pretty simplistic design. And then once we had that, I put some wire on the trunk. That's these 2 strands you see running all the way up. We then put a pry bar on it, attempted to put some motion this way. I wanted the tree to have a kick back in it. I wanted it to do that. That's all I wanted to do. And holding this and holding a pry bar, I got that motion out of it. I went farther than that. You can go back and see on the video. I think you can see. But when I released it, this didn't hold it. It needed to be more than that. So it flexed right back, and I went, we can add the copper here and go back and do that again, or we can just say, we can move on to the second part. The second part was to take that same pry bar, tie it off here, break it loose from here, and break it loose from up here, and then wrap the tree around the pry bar, much like we had wrapped copper around the tree. That was successful. I've got a little slinky thing going around here. We made this bend, we put a little bit more bend here, we put a lot more bend here, and we brought all of our branches swooping back to compensate. I considered putting a line from here to here and increasing this arc. I decided against it because that would change the direction. The arc is more prominent here, and that would change it into a bow right in here somewhere. That would probably nullify this somewhat. So sometimes you think, oh, I want it to do this, and I want it to do this, and then I want it to do this. So you get one or two of those just like you want them, and then the third one starts straightening out the other two more than it adds to the design. Sometimes you can fight that and get what you want. And sometimes it's like, yeah, no, that's not turning out. Just that's too many direction changes for what we're doing right now. Anyway, here is the promised. Here's our promised little rotation. During the bend, I heard a crack here. We got a little open up here. I put some cut paste on that. I think I got one over here. On one of it, this one or this one, I forget which, but up here was one. This one, when it happened, it went, and I was looking at, whoa. You know, it's like I said before, when you see a crack, that doesn't tell you broke a branch. When it comes to pine, that tells you were going to bend until you saw where it was going to start making lines and start cracking. And when that area reveals itself, then you know what to watch, where to watch. And if you need to get more movement, don't just go pushing your luck to do it. But if you need to get more movement, you can, so long as you're looking at that crack. And at the time you see fiber, that's a good time. That's a good time to hold up. Well, when I was doing that that last little bend, we went to fiber. Boom, fiber. Okay, we're done. I don't think it's an issue. I've bent harder than that before without issue. So we did put cut paste to it and moved on. I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned. I don't know if I did our whole rotate. I'll finish this rotate. We'll go all the way around and make sure. I brought this apex closer, tighter. I put a swoop in over here. I put a swoop matching in the branches. I pulled all of these branches down closer. This one only a little. Could I have done that more? I could. Let's not mess with it. I might put another turn in that in a week or so. So that's got it. That's probably about the time I stopped and started yapping last time. I'm just going to come right on around with that. This has been our Literati Japanese black pine maintenance wire restyle. I appreciate you. Frida appreciates you. The crows that are waiting on their peanuts appreciate you. And thank you all so much for watching. Our next drop will be in a couple of days when I drop the video I'm about to shoot next about where we are on our projects that we've been working on the last couple of weeks. I'm just gonna weave my way through here and pop off camera. Yeah, that was a shot. Oh my God, the longest thing in history.